The NBA regular season is over. 82 games are in the book. The Phoenix Suns are cooked. The Warriors are in the play-in. It's been a hell of a season. So without further ado, let's get into my 2025 All-NBA team for this year. Here's my criteria: games played, productivity, consistency, team success, impact. I'll be breaking down my reasoning for all of my players on this list, from my first team all the way through my third team. I'll even give you some honorable mentions. But now that the criteria is out the way, let's get to the list. On my first team this year, there are 4 players that are locked to be first team All-NBA. There's one that is a bit more debatable, but these 4 to me have been very, very good all year long and have been the definitions of some of the best players in the league with their impact and what they've done for their teams. They are as follows: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, my personal MVP for this year. He's done a lot to elevate the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's one of the best guards ever to play the basketball game. One of the best guard seasons we've ever seen this season, averaging over 32 points a game this season on very productive splits. One of the best isolation scorers. Also has the highest plus when he's on the floor. He's just done a lot for Oklahoma City. He's been playing for a team that could have won 70 games if a lot of their other players were not injured to start the year. Chet having that gruesome injury to start really put more on Shai's shoulders, and time after time he delivered, being one of the most consistent scorers in terms of 30-point, 40-point, and 50-point games, breaking Kevin Durant's streak in Oklahoma City. To me, Shai has played like an MVP guy, so he leads off my first team. Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, still the best player in basketball. Jokic has been spectacular, averaging a triple-double, the third person after Oscar Robertson and Russell Westbrook to do it. He's been so efficient, and he's been having a godly amount of play. He's been so consistent on a night-to-night basis. Defense has looked rough this season. It really, really has. So I do hear people who want to tax that. But in terms of his game-to-game impact, he's done so much to raise the floor for this Denver team to be where they have been with all the injuries they've had with Aaron Gordon and some other guys. Nikola Jokic is having one of the best seasons of basketball that I've seen in my lifetime. And he is consistently raising his name in these all-time talks in terms of who's the best to ever play the sport. Nikola Jokic, second on my first team All-NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo, someone that doesn't really get talked about as much. A lot of people put him in third place, and a lot of it is because of the Bucks' shaky start to the season. But Giannis has been an All-NBA player the entire year. In a vacuum, he's really a MVP caliber talent. This season, he's putting up numbers that no one else has been doing. Has been having some really good moments on both ends of the basketball floor for the entire season. Giannis, I mean, I think his numbers speak for themselves, and his impact does as well. Even with Dame going out because of blood clots, we've seen Giannis have to step into more of the point forward role for this team, and he's been playing spectacular basketball to close out the season as well. Giannis has to be a lock for this team. And the fourth guy that is the final lock for me has to be Jayson Tatum. A lot has been made about Jayson Tatum. A lot of people either love him or hate him. To me, he has an argument to be the most underrated and overrated player at the same time, because one person will tell you he's top 2, another will tell you he's barely top 10. It really fluctuates for how the NBA landscape view Jayson Tatum. But I think in a year where Boston has had a lot of injuries themselves, Jaylen Brown has not had a great season by his standards, and also the other players just have not really looked the same. Jrue Holiday looks to have regressed during the regular season. Jayson Tatum's level of play has kept Boston in flow, and more importantly, he's been an Iron Man for them, playing so many games night to night, just having that consistency impact his team. So to me, Jayson Tatum is 100% a lock this year for All-NBA. Yes, I definitely went to sleep because I was definitely tired. So this is a new video, as you can see from the marks on my head. We're going to officially get to the rest of the list. Sorry, let's keep it going. This last spot in All-NBA is extremely debatable. Why? Because the people that would normally be over these guys were not healthy. If Wemby had finished out his season healthy, I'm pretty sure he would be an easy first team candidate, but unfortunately he got hurt. He was unable to do so. So the people you can argue for, in my opinion, here would be Stephen Curry. He's had a phenomenal season for the Golden State Warriors, especially post Jimmy Butler trade. His impact has been felt all year long. You also have people who want to argue for LeBron James, who started to play his best basketball after the Anthony Davis trade as well, even though he did get hurt down a stretch but came back. So that's the thing, right? Even a guy like Luka, who is able to put up the counting stats, simply didn't play enough games. So the last spot is up for debate because of that. But in my opinion, my All-NBA player of this group is neither of them. I have Anthony Edwards. He's having one of the best shooting seasons we've ever seen in terms of his pull-up threes and his confidence at getting to the shot. He is setting a career high for himself. First off, led the league in threes for the entire season. Very difficult, number one. But number two, single-handedly improving his skill set at the three, especially after the Team USA stuff over the offseason. It was a huge thing for him to come into this season in shape, doing what he's doing. So for him to have one of the best shooting seasons ever, averaging 27 a game as well, he's just showing his real impact as a player and still being one of the craziest athletes in the NBA. I think the conversation of who's the best athlete shooter is definitely entering that conversation at his young age. For him to do this so early into his career is so dangerous for what this sets up for his career, because he's just not afraid to shoot the ball, man. And I think that's bled into his impact for this team. And also the position he was put in early on, where they trade Karl-Anthony Towns, who was the second best player on this team. They came off of a Western Conference Finals appearance where they were close, but they lose. They don't get a chance to see it through because they trade Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, who wasn't healthy to start the season. There were some things going on. Then you have Rudy Gobert, who kind of fell off from what we know his greatness to be until the late stretch of the season, where Gobert's now playing better basketball. There's been a lot of things going on for Anthony Edwards, and I want to give him this spot because compared to LeBron James, compared to Steph Curry, what Anthony Edwards has done production-wise, 78 games, to be doing what he's doing on both ends and having that true impact for Minnesota to have them in the playoffs, I just think it matters, man. I think it does. I think he deserves a ton of credit and respect and representation. So Anthony Edwards is my first team selection. Moving on to my second team. No surprise, I'm going to start with my two picks, Steph and LeBron. Steph Curry and LeBron James have defined a generation of basketball. A lot of people are watching basketball right now, and a huge part of it is because of those two guys, what they've done, their battles, and their impact. Steph had a peculiar start to the season. I can definitely hear people saying that, but his impact on the game is still very, very felt, independent of whatever he puts up in the box score. I just think he's a very impactful player, and the way that he is still able to command attention is just very one-of-one and unique compared to everyone else in the NBA. And I think that once his efficiency started to pick up, it became very, very crazy, because after the Butler trade, this Warriors team turned their entire season around. They went from not being in the play-in the other way to, well, unfortunately, being in the play-in. So that's tough. But I think Steph's played like it. He's had multiple games of 50-point games, which is insane for a player at his age to still be able to output. He's had multiple 10+3 games. He's just been a sensational player. So I think All-NBA second team is a fair position for him. LeBron, to me, is also similar, where he just played some really, really good basketball. Early on, he was a negative for the Lakers. They make the Anthony Davis trade, and then he really starts playing like a top 7 player in the league pretty consistently. So I give LeBron James and Steph that grace for this second team. But my other picks are going to be interesting. This player is a player that, to me, does not get the credit and love that I think he deserves to get. He had a shaky start to the season. I agree. I know a lot of people in the comments are going to be upset that he's on his list, but I think he deserves a lot of credit because, in my opinion, he has a clear argument to be performing like a first-team All-NBA guy since the All-Star break, and it's Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has been playing some lights-out basketball. Since the break, he's averaging a 20-point double-double, I'm pretty sure, on 11 assists a game with just one turnover. His efficiency in terms of not turning the ball over with how he plays, where he processes things super quickly and he's making all types of advanced reads, is one thing. But more importantly, where the Pacers are. Because before the season, I was having a conversation about what do we think the Eastern Conference is going to look like this year? A lot of people did not believe in the Pacers. A lot of people had Orlando over them. To be fair, Orlando has had injuries, so maybe that's not too crazy. But the conversation was, can the Pacers be a 7 seed this year? That was the conversation about them. And early on, it was justified because they weren't playing great basketball. Tyrese didn't look like himself. Pascal Siakam to me was the better player. But then Tyrese woke up. And for a long time now, he's been playing complete basketball. This is one of the best guard turnaround seasons I've seen. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. He's not first team because of his start to me. But the way he's been playing, I think the impact has absolutely been felt in Indiana. So I have to have Tyrese Halliburton as my next guard on my second team All-NBA. So I have Steph, LeBron, and I have Tyrese Halliburton on my second team. My next guy is a guy that just has the most, he's been having one of the most impactful seasons this year, and he's a big part of why people think this team can do something and potentially win the NBA Finals. And that guy is Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley has been so good this season on both ends. He's been a huge catalyst as to why the Cavs have had multiple double-digit win streaks this season. He's the reason why the Cavs are the 1 seed, in my opinion. Obviously, basketball is a team sport, but his improvements both defensively, but more importantly, offensively, right? Like being more involved in terms of going downhill and being a passer in these spots. Mobley's versatility on both ends has been everything for Cleveland. And in my opinion, he is the ceiling raiser to this Cleveland team if they're to have a chance against Boston. So in terms of what he's been able to perform impact-wise during the regular season, I think he's more than deserving of an all-NBA position. And I think he's been playing lights-out basketball because of it. So I want to give him credit for that. Evan Mobley is on my second team for 2025. Now, the last spot I struggled with. I did. If you heard the podcast, the full details of my second team were a bit different, right? It came down to me between Jalen Brunson and Jaren Jackson Jr., which is so tough for me because Jaren Jackson to me is not getting enough respect and credit for what he was doing for Memphis early on for the entire season. Ja Morant has been inconsistent when he's played this year. Overall, to me, Ja hasn't been like a top 10 point guard this season. And Jaren Jackson Jr. to me is clearly, no mistake about it, been the best player in Memphis for the majority of the season. But Jaren also has had a tough way to close out the season. I got to be honest about that. And I do think that's going to impact where he falls for a lot of different people. I think in comparison to a player like Jalen Brunson is just the offensive hub for everything the Knicks want to do. Defensively, he's not good. We understand this, but I still think as an offensive player, what Brunson has done this season has been also very good. I do think the injury down the stretch for him also kind of impacts his stock a little bit for me, but I think for me, if you have Brunson over JJJ for your second team, I'm not going to poo-poo on that. I think that's valid. I just think for me, I want to give JJJ his flowers for what he's been doing for his team. So I have Jaren Jackson making it over Jalen Brunson for my second team All-NBA. I just think his impact really deserves a nod, especially because he's been his most complete version of himself offensively for the majority of the season as well. And his consistency to me has just shined on both ends for the majority of the season. So I'm going Jaren Jackson Jr. on my second team. All right, we are officially at the third team All-NBA positions for 2025. And I want to say this is the most stressful part of the list. There's going to be snubs. There's going to be people that you don't expect to see on here. But remember, this is my list. It's my opinion. I think the impact games played, we've been over the criteria, but I think these are some critical components to look at here. My list personally, starting out, I have Jalen Brunson because I think he has the clear argument to be second team. I have him on my third team. I also have Karl-Anthony Towns. I think the Knicks have 2 All-Stars, and I know that's going to sound away to people, but I think Cat is having one of the best offensive seasons in the NBA this season. certainly of his career, you could argue this is a career year for Cat. The defense has been a problem. I agree. Like, he still has not made dramatic improvements on that end, but Cat has been such an offensive pillar for them, especially when Jalen Brunson went out to close the year. I think Cat continued to show his value in those spots, and I think that impact to me deserves a All-NBA team. I think he's been that caliber of guy. So I have two Knicks on my third team All-NBA. I just think Cat has been that spectacular, and he's played enough games to be eligible. I think that also matters in this. So Karl-Anthony Towns is on my third team with Jalen Brunson. My next player is a guy that was counted out, young player, has been injured a lot of his career before this point. A lot of people had this team not winning anything, not really being in the conversation to even be considered for All-NBA, let alone All-Star. And I think that this guy has played phenomenal basketball for the majority of the season. If you wanted to argue him higher than third team, I think I could definitely understand it. Cade Cunningham, man. Cade has been spectacular. The post-up efficiency for him has been a thing. Improving his three-point shot to where it's gotten has been a huge part of why Cade has been so productive in so many different ways and spots. And I think that for Cade, taking the step like this where they just put better shooters around him just shows how good of a player Cade really is, and more importantly, how dangerous he's going to get as he continues to develop more and more and more in Detroit, especially when the young core can really grow and develop around him, right? The fact that Detroit clinched a playoff seed is crazy. A lot of people would have probably had Detroit in the play-in and said, good improvement. This Detroit team won a lot of games this season. And a lot of it isn't just Cade, obviously, but the impact on them winning for sure. Cade has a big, big role in it on both ends. I also think Cade's defense has also improved from last year. So to me, Cade is deserving of all NBA honors. Again, if you want to say higher, I'm not going to argue you about that. That's fair. But for me, I have Cade Cunningham on my third team All-NBA. My next guy has had an interesting season. There's some people who think he's performed like a first team All-NBA guy. To me, a lot of that is the team success. I would make an argument this year that he has not been the most important player on his team, but I do think based off player reputation and what we know him to mean to his team offensively, I do think he's still All-NBA caliber. If you don't have him on your All-NBA team, I can understand, but I do think the impact on his team success and what he's done as their best player overall still matters to me. So I'm going to go with Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan Mitchell is still an All-NBA caliber guy. I can't go first or second team for D Mitch this season, but I still think Cleveland having two All-NBA guys doesn't really surprise me. Their core four of Jared Allen, Mitchell, Mobley, and Garland has been a very, very, very big thing. I hesitated thinking if I wanted to go with Garland over Donovan instead, but I still think the way Donovan is able to bend defenses is a thing for me, and I just think he deserves a nod. So I have Donovan Mitchell as my next guy, which brings us to probably the most controversial pick I've had for the All-NBA teams in a very long time. The Clippers deserve representation. They do. And I think when it comes down to choosing who, the argument for James Harden is a good one. He's been playing phenomenal basketball. He's been creating a lot of offense for them when Kawhi Leonard just has not been available for them to start the year. Norman Powell also played a huge role in that, but James is also like at the top of the league in terms of isolation and isolation efficiency. Even though his raw like scoring numbers aren't that great, he's shooting 40% from the field. I think the efficiency for him hasn't been the greatest, but playmaking wise, he's still having a very good playmaking season. And right now, the Clippers are where they are in the postseason in a large part because of James Harden. But the other guy is a guy that to me was very underrepresented in the offseason. I remember having these conversations saying, hey, I think Zubac is a top 10 center. And I was getting laughed at by people. A lot of people did not think that he was even top 10, let alone top 5 or 6, whatever you want to call it. And he's been playing phenomenal basketball for a while. I thought last year he had a very good campaign. but it was overshadowed because of the injuries, all this other stuff. This year, Zubac to me is clearly all defense. Clearly to me, he's also in the DPOY conversation. Wherever you have him in there, fine, but he's definitely in that conversation this season. But for me, the biggest thing about Zubac, he played 79 games. He is the reason why this Clippers team is in the playoffs, because of what he does to elevate their floor every night defensively, but also just being such a big body and pest offensively, where when Harden drives to the paint and misses these floaters, he's rebounding and putting it back in. Or when they put 2 on the ball to James Harden, how he can trust Zubac to catch the ball and finish and be an athletic finisher over everyone else. Also the rim protection, right? We just saw in this last game in the play-in where we saw Zubac just playing phenomenal pester defense against the Golden State Warriors and also finishing, right? Like his rebounding this season just created so many second chance opportunities that got the Clippers to these wins. To me, Zubac is a player that I want to have on my All-NBA, and I do. I have Zubac here. I think he has been such a sensation this season. I know a lot of people are going to be surprised because on paper it looks kind of crazy to have Zubac on All-NBA, but if you take the aesthetic away from it and you're just watching basketball, to me, Zubac absolutely has a claim to All-NBA. And to be fair, so did Jalen Williams. I didn't forget about him. Jalen Williams has also been good for the entire season, but I think the consistency of games played and where Zubac has raised the ceiling and the floor for the Clippers, I just have him over J-Dub in that regard. And I think that the Clippers needed to have representation on this list. I don't think Jalen Williams is a bad shout, because when you're the best team in basketball, normally you can have one other All-NBA player, i.e. when the Boston Celtics were the best team in the league and they got Jaylen Brown on there as All-NBA player. It's fair, right? I just think that the caliber of season Zubac is having should not get lost to the wayside, and I wanted some Clippers representation. And while James Harden is a good shot as a creator, I think the floor and ceiling that Zubac has raised on both ends really deserves a nod, especially when Kawhi missed the amount of games he did, and they relied on Zubac heavily all season to give them that value. He should fire his agent, because his contract, if he was a free agent this season, would be ridiculous for what he's done this year. So shout out to Zubac. He's on my 3rd team All-NBA. And that officially concludes my 2025 All-NBA selections. For my first team, I have Shea, Jokic, Tatum, Giannis, and Anthony Edwards as my first team All-NBA. For my second team, I have Evan Mobley, Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And for my third team, I have Cade Cunningham, Donovan Mitchell, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and Ivica Zubac. Those are my guys for the third team. I think the most arguable players that got snubbed that could be on my All-NBA would be between Jalen Williams and James Harden. Those are the closest guys that have a clear argument to make this list. Overall, let me know how you think I did in the comments. Let me know what you think about what players have been doing this season. Who do you think your biggest snub is? Let me know. And as always, I'll catch y'all in the next video. We are officially back. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We get into it. Peace out, people.